Welcome to another edition of Labor TV, brought to you by the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Central Labor Council. Today we're going to be talking about the ports, specifically the Port of Longview. And we have with us the CEO of the Port of Longview, Geir Kalhagen.
Yep.
And of course my sidekick, Rick Von Rock, retired AWPPW. And myself, Kyle Mackey, I'm the president of the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Labor Council. So Geir, why don't you start off and tell us what your role is with the port and a little bit about the port.
Yeah, sure, be happy to. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer at the Port of Longview, and basically what I am tasked with is to bring economic opportunities to the local community and to the Port District. Obviously this is sort of at the direction of the elected council or board of port commissioners, of which we have 3. Presently Daryl Dietz is the president. We have Lou Johnson, who's the secretary, and Bob Bogason, all members of that, and they give the direction that they want to see the port go in, and then what I do is I try to go out and find opportunities that will bring economic prosperity to the area through the port, and champion for regional transportational issues. And try to do that operating on a modified triple bottom line, so we take into consideration obviously profits, that the port has to be self-sustainable, and but equally as important is the jobs that we bring to the community and the quality of life that we provide for the members of the community as well.
So let's talk about what kind of jobs, what kind of employees you have down there. Are they all union employees, or you know, how many belong to unions? Well,
I mean, I think that I don't think that they're all union employees. We have obviously people in the administrative side, and we've got management at some of the companies such as Kinder Morgan that are down there. But the port does have working relationship with both, with all the, there's a lot of unions, a lot of collective bargaining units that are represented at the port. ILEW is one of them. We also have painters, electricians, laborers, I mean, the full gamut. So, you know, through our philosophy and through our direction from the commission, I mean, we have working relationships with all the collective bargaining units in the local area.
Do you have a rough estimate for numbers directly employed to the port?
Directly employed? Well, I mean, it really depends on what your definition of directly employed. So in-house on the administrative side, we're at, I think, 32 people right now. You know, obviously we have working relationships with the ILW on the waterfront, but they're not really considered direct employees. Mm-hmm. And then we have all the maintenance crews, which I think at last number we figured there was about 50 of those being represented by different unions. But we probably consider those more direct employed by the port than the ILW side.
Okay, I was wondering, being that it is a port and everything, a lot of cargo moved through it. Mm-hmm. Could you have any figures on roughly what type of cargo moved, say, versus import versus export to the port?
Yeah, sure. I mean, for the most part, we're an export port. Our biggest commodity, obviously, is, well, logs. I mean, that's the one that creates most jobs. As far as tonnage, there's pet coke that runs through the berth 5 facility, berth 5. And there's about 750,000 tons annually that move through there. And then we have the soda ash that goes through berth 2, and we're averaging right around 400,000 tons a year that go through there as well. EGT, you know, hopefully when they get up to full speed, they're going to be somewhere around 10 million, but right now they're about 7 million tons a year is what's been moving through that facility. And then on the import side, a lot of what we get is project cargo and obviously wind cargo. The wind cargo has died down significantly. We're hoping to see an uptick in the project cargo, which will mostly be modules, the same as the Port of Vancouver has done in the past. That'll be heading towards the Balkans and the Canadian shale fields.
Okay, so then in addition to what you import and export, are there other manufacturers on port land?
Well, I guess, I guess it depends on what your definition of, but Skyline Steel would have been one of those that is making a go at producing pipe and steel products, also Knapp Steel, and we have Brown Strauss as well. So they do some value added, but as far as a purely manufacturing entity, we don't have a pure manufacturing entity on port property. But I think moving forward and looking at what a lot of the other ports are doing, that is certainly something that we'd be considered looking into as the port grows.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned that EGT isn't at full capacity yet. Is that what you're?
Well, I don't know if, yeah, that's what I did say, and I don't know if that's the appropriate way to put it. I guess, when they came online, they had a capacity of, I believe it was like 10 million tons a year is what they were looking at. Those numbers just haven't been realized yet, but they're
still
in the
working.
7. Well, and I don't think it's so much to do with the elevator as it is to do with, just the market conditions and what they are. So they have the capacity to go to that level, but, the markets just haven't allowed them to go to that level yet.
So, are there main countries that the port exports to? Some of the bigger countries, or is there a variety?
There is a variety. Australia probably represents about 500,000 tons of cargo a year. China's probably 3 million. All the Pacific Rim partners, so Japan, Korea, those, but we're also doing some to Mexico, South America. I mean, I think we did business with about 27 countries last year. This year the list is a little bit shorter, but I mean, still a good 15 different countries that we're exporting to and importing from.
All right, so let's get into a little bit tougher question. Everybody's been talking about it lately, the taxes. You guys are taking money out of my pocket. What's going on with the taxes? We lowered them, now we're raising them again, and everybody wants to know what they go towards.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, part of what the port is here for is an economic engine in the community. And one of the things that we've been tasked for is to be a steward of the public funds, obviously. So prior to the taxes being raised, the first 1.4 million, I believe it was, or representative 22 cents of the 45 cents, was preordained to go to bonds that had been issued. So those are called GO bonds, and that revenue goes directly to servicing that debt. What we looked at is that we need to make investments on behalf of the community so that we can make returns on those investments. So obviously, people don't like paying taxes. We understand that. But I think the question should be more focused on what are you getting in return for your taxes. So if you look at what we do as the port, we generate over $444 million worth of economic transactions in the local community. We also contribute about $5.2 million worth of taxes generated by the business that we're a conduit for back into the community. So if you look at it that way, and those were the numbers based on the 1.4. So it's basically a 3-to-1 return on the investment. What we did realize is we had a dilapidating, berth down there, berth 4, and we decided that we were going to clean that up and we're going to create an environment where that could potentially be turned into to suit a customer to come in there and generate revenue and taxes. No sooner have we got started on that than we had people knocking on the door, and right now we're in negotiations with one of those companies to locate on that berth. And so if you take the number that we expanded the tax base by, which I believe was, say, 1.5 million roughly, and it may be a little bit off there, but the expectations are that's going to generate $20 million in tax revenue during the construction period, and then approximately $2 million a year for the duration of that lease, which could potentially be a 50-year lease or an 80-year lease. So if that's not a reasonable return, then I don't know what would be considered a reasonable return. So we're not taking the money to fund any operations. None of it goes to pay any salaries. What it goes for is to make investments in the port so that we can generate a return for the community. And I think we're doing an outstanding job on that. And I think that's what we should be focusing the conversation on, rather than, the unfortunate pizza remarks or what are you doing with your hands in my pocket? And I mean, I don't think that I have any remorse about the direction we went, so long as I can stand up and look the constituents in the eye and my commissioners and say, this is what we're giving them back. As long as we're giving them back more than we're receiving, then I'm doing the job that I've been tasked with.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good investment to me. I think people were just confused about, going back and forth on it, but it makes sense, and I think it's going to turn out to be good for everybody in Cowlitz County.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is, when I came on board, I mean, it's anytime you have an organization and you change the leadership, you bring in people with different styles. I mean, everybody has their strengths and fortes. Some of them lie in different arenas. One of the things I did was I took a look at the port. I commissioned a complete study of what is the condition of the port. I wanted a report card on what our buildings were looking like, what our rolling stock was looking like, because without those tools, we can't compete in the market. So one of the first things we did is we purchased another mobile crane so we can compete for the module cargo. That we did with a commercial lending program as opposed to bonding, which we had done in the past. One of the things to point out, we'll pay for that crane, I believe it's 8 years before we pay for the crane we bought 4 years ago. And we're going to have a savings of about $2.1 million in interest because we financed it commercially as opposed to going out and putting a bond on it. So, but to get back to the point, so we did the assessment. I went to the commission. I said, this is the array of your port right now. And, you know, I think they were a little bit taken aback. I mean, we all knew we had problems. But my point was I would rather stand out in front of the community and admit to the problems and then come up with a solution for it rather than just focusing on the problems. And so once we realize that, then it just becomes, well, how fast do we want to turn this into revenue producing, tax producing assets for the community? And the answer was as quickly as possible. So we could have done another bond and we could have laden the people of the Port District with a 20-year debt. Or what we did is we owned up to what we're doing and we said we're taking this money so we can revitalize the dock, and in about 3.5 to 4 years, depending on what the valuations of property taxes are, that dock will be paid for, as opposed to 20 years. I mean, it's the equivalent of taking a mortgage out on a car. It just doesn't make any sense.
It's a good explanation.
Yeah, I want to go just a little further with that first. The community hears that the port has been very profitable. This is what they see. They're profitable, and yet they want to raise our taxes. They're profitable, and then this year was the increase. It generates an extra $1,647,311 increase.
Yeah.
Just for the year.
No.
Just to put a raise there. So how do you explain to a community then that, hey, I'm profitable, but I still want an increase in the taxes? I know what you're saying, where it's going to go to, but how do you get that point across to the citizens saying, where's this profit going when they ask?
Well, I guess the easy answer to that is for the 1.6437 or whatever, I'll take your word for it, that the taxpayers committed into that investment, every single dime of profit that the port makes went into that investment as well. So that's a small portion of the investment that we're making. But to give you an idea, Berth 8, when we built that, I think that's like 8-9 years ago, that was a $12 million investment. So to build a berth today, I mean, if you were to build one like that, we're estimating it's going to be in the $20 million range. So we're not playing in the realm of small numbers. Even if we contribute $7 million and we have the taxpayers contributing 1.5, that's only halfway to building one dock. A log stacker costs $1 million, but look at all the jobs that are created because we're exporting logs. It's not just the labor that's on the docks that are loading the ships. It's also the folks that are selling the tires for these trucks, the folks that are doing the maintenance on these trucks, and the coffee shops all along the way. I mean, and I don't want to drag that out. You get the economists who come in and say, if you create one job, you can take credit for 20. But I think these are very real, and for the area that we're in, reaching out, and often we get the questions, especially from places like Castle Rock. Well, what does the port do for us? Well, take a look and see all the log trucks that are running around up there and the loggers that are running up there, and that's all due to the activity of the port, because it doesn't make any economic sense to drive those trucks to Olympia or Tacoma, which are probably the two nearest log docks that are operating.
Okay, so thank you on that. And now as we're looking at the port, in the future, what are some of the future plans for the port? You mentioned a couple, but say if you're going to do a 10-year future look.
Yeah, no, I think what we're looking at right now, what I've been tasked with by the commissioners, is to maximize, the existing port infrastructure. So we're taking a hard look at that, and we're seeing what kind of businesses we can bring in. That being said, there's a very real potential that within the next 2 to 3 years will be maximized out at the port proper, the port that everybody's always known. Obviously, the next step is the Barlow Point property, which we're commencing a master plan for right now and a study. So we're going to bring in economists. We're going to have people in the industry take a look at that property and find out what's best suitable for it. And then the expansion would be into that area. And then as the revenues increase, the idea is to grow the port and look at what other ports have successfully done. Is that, an incubator project for manufacturing? Is that something we can look at down the road? I think the commissioners are very, very open to anything that will increase the value to the people of the district and bring jobs to the area. So, the story hasn't been written yet, but I would say the next logical step is going to be Barlow Point. And realistically, with the time that it takes to permit and do things, I mean, that's probably 5 years down the road at minimum.
So, Geir, I got to ask, full disclosure, I'm a longshoreman, of course, and so I would like to know what your relationship is like, has been like with the ILWU, and how you see that moving forward with, the Barlow Point or any of the port docks, which we obviously see as our jurisdiction.
Yeah, as your
we would love
jurisdiction,
to be working on,
Yeah.
as much of that as we can.
No, and I think that, I've always had a good working relationship with the ILW, anywhere on the West Coast. Prior to coming here, I've worked all up and down the West Coast, and I've got good working relationships with the ILA on the East Coast too. As far as my position now, I see them as a partner in what we do. Obviously, we've had a working agreement with the local here, and we employ a lot of ILW individuals on the docks. But I guess from my position, you're asking me what I do. I don't know exactly in what reference you're framing that, but we support organized labor. We support collective bargaining. We support the kind of jobs that they create and the families that they help support. There's obviously certain laws that prevent us from taking any one position or the other, but even with the potential clients that we've had that come in, one of the starting points is that, we will sit down together with organized labor, and we will have those discussions, and we'll see where they, how they turn out.
Mm-hmm. Do you personally have long-term goals for the Port of Longview, things that you would like to see done at the top of your list, off the top of your head?
Yeah, so I came on board in 2012, and 2012 and 2013, we became the third largest port in the state of Washington, which is the most trade-dependent state in the nation. So when I look at what the Port of Longview, the potential here is with the Barlow Point properties and the properties around here, my plan is to maximize, the potential of this port and to grow it. And take advantage of every opportunity that comes by. So the long term is to make this a well-known, prosperous, viable economic engine for this community and create as many jobs along the way as we can and help to build the quality of life that we have in this community.
Okay, I got a question as we're going along with this, trying to bring the citizens back into it here. Now that you've taken over responsibility for the Willow Grove Park, are you going to be doing anything different with that?
Well, just to clarify that, so we have been, we're doing our due diligence on that, but it's obviously a direction that the port is moving towards, but we just want to make sure that we've got everything identified. Our take on Willow Grove is it's an opportunity for the port to give back to the community. It's an opportunity for an incredible asset that unfortunately, due to the economic conditions right now, the county was not able to fully realize. And so when we found out that it was, floundering, I guess for lack of a better word, given the history that the port was actually the ones that donated the land, or we sold it to the county for $10, we're now buying it back for $10. Or if the commissioners finally approve it, we will be buying it back for $10. So I think that it's an incredible opportunity. It's one of the places where we probably have a weakness, that we're not supplying the community with access to the riverfront or the waterfront. And I'm hopeful, and my recommendation to the commissioners is that we move forward with that and get that place up to something that the port could be proud of. And that would mean probably a considerable amount of renovations and whatnots down there. But we really need, since we are a public body and we are responsible to the community, I don't think we can go into this without knowing exactly what the costs are. I don't think the costs are going to be a determining factor whether we take it over or not, but for full public disclosure, we need to be aware of those. We need to do our financial due diligence. We need to make sure that there's no minefields down there. We've already had conversations with DNR because they actually hold the lease, which a lot of the buildings are on. Sure. So we needed to have their, so to speak, blessing that they were okay with us taking it over. And we didn't end up taking it over just to have DNR tell us, okay, lease is done, tear down all the buildings, because we didn't want the port to be, where the park died. But a lot of those things have been cleared, and hopefully now we'll be giving an update to the commissioners here at the next commission meeting on where we're at, and hopefully we'll make some progress on that front.
Okay, thank you.
So a couple of years ago, this company, EGT, came to town, and it drove a wedge between the port and the unions, not just the ILWU, but other unions. Mm-hmm. And I think our community, learned a lot from that experience. Is there anything that you can tell me, even being the new guy, that the port has learned from that experience? How the port would handle things?
Well, I think
differently?
that what we're doing with the Sage Haven project, which is one that we're looking at right now, is very, very clear. It's juxtaposed to what we did with EGT. We're taking this project out in front of the public day one. All right, you can say it's day 3 because we signed the option, but that is all that it is. It's an option to fully go through the entire vetted process of what this means. And part of that is arranging these meetings with all the labor unions that are going to be potentially benefiting from their arrival at the port or in Cowlitz County. And the port will be present at these meetings when they sit down and discuss with the Council of Labor Council and as well with the ILWU. And I think that what we need to do is, as I stated earlier, we're operating on a modified triple bottom line. So the jobs and the benefit to the community are just as important as the revenue piece. I think that when EGT came on board, financially the port was probably struggling, and maybe they made some decisions based on trying to get the port back on a financial background, and that was their focus. And I think that, quite honestly, I would have to say, looking back at what I've seen, I think the intent to do things right were there, but I think there were some mistakes made, and I don't think there's any one entity that deserves the full blame of some of those mistakes made. But what we've done is we've taken a look at where all those missteps occurred, and we've done our best. And I've got the legal fees to back it up, because I mean a lot of this is done through lawyers and the ifs and whens and what 4,000 and all that, and we're trying to do our best to protect the port, protect the community, and have the table be open to sit down to negotiate labor terms that are reasonable for both sides of the table.
Of course, we've, as ILWU, we've done our best to make things work there, and it's obviously created a lot of revenue for the port. Did we discuss how much revenue?
No, I think that roughly it's between 22 and 23% of the port's revenues comes from EGT. So it is a huge fund. Yeah, I mean that was sort of the stepping stool that put us to a level where we're not worried about keeping the lights on anymore. Now we're looking at making future investments. I mean, as you well know, the port has been in dire straits before and had to sell off land. I think that EGT deal made it possible to move to the next level for the port.
Good deal. I got a tough question for you on EGT. When the ILWU's contract is up in 2017, if the ILWU is locked out, what would the port say to that? What would the port's stance be towards that? Is there
that's a loaded question, and I mean it's really a hypothetical. Mm-hmm. I know that it's a possibility, but my answer to that would be it depends on what are the grounds for this, and what is the port's legal standing. Obviously, we support good family living wage jobs. I mean, if it was based on anything other than just a collective bargaining, I don't. It's hard to speak to exactly what it would be. But at the end of the day, I can say that the port does feel that the Longshore are a partner to the port. But all the unions that are represented at the port are going to be, equally as important to us.
Okay, being that we have different ports in our area, we're not too far from Kalima, they have a port, and then we have, of course, what you call the Longview port. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the differentiations between Kalima and how they do business, how they raise revenue, and the Port of Longview?
That's a very good question. I think that the key difference is that the Port of Longview is an operating port, and the Port of Kalima is a landlord port. And obviously now, the Port of Kalima does not collect any taxes. However, they did collect taxes to build the infrastructure that they have in place right now. So once they had built the infrastructure, and now they're generating income from that, it's two grain elevators and a steel facility. So they've, in essence, 3 berths. And they're focusing now, because they're out of really industrial land to do anything else. Obviously, they're looking at that new methanol project, which, I wish them all the success in the world, but they're also focused on parks and interpretive centers and things like that. So every port, it really depends on the makeup of the commission. We're a little bit more of an industrial, blue-collar, mill town, and we've got industrial land, and for us not to utilize that and make the best of it, and make those investments on behalf of the community is I guess, where where we're coming from. So they've got a bankroll that's substantial, and they're doing their investments how they see fit, and we're doing ours how we see fit.
I guess the key question I would have towards that would be, does the Port of Longview intend to continue to be an operations port and not just a land lease port like the Port of Kalama?
Yeah.
And create those jobs, more jobs
Yeah.
in the meantime.
Yeah, I guess, what we're going to have to look at it because, fortunately or unfortunately as a public entity, the general public is allowed to come in and voice their opinions, and there's a broad spectrum of opinions that come in. So, I say as long as we are financially stable being an operating port and we can add value and contribute to the revenue stream, then we'll continue down that path. If that becomes something where that revenue stream becomes more and more difficult to maintain, then we have to look at it. I mean, the port at the end of the day it belongs to the people of the port district. So we have to look out for their best interests. But right now, I think that the agreement we have with the ILW and the working relationship we have with the folks that work down at the port, we don't have any immediate plans to shift away from that. And we've actually, some of the hardest decisions we have is, okay, so you've got two potentials to bring into the port. One brings, 200 jobs, but creates, revenue times 4. The other brings, flat revenue, but creates, 400 jobs. And those are the kind of dilemmas that we're dealing with all the time, because our commission, or my commission, is very intent on the fact that we bring jobs and prosperity to the community. It's not just about the bottom line. The hard part is you need that bottom line to create the job, so it's sort of the horse and the cart kind of scenario. But they are supportive of an operating port, and I think we've been successful in doing that, and there's no immediate plans to change that.
Right on. Rick, did you have any other
Yeah,
questions?
I got one question.
Sure.
Being that this is a public entity you're working for, and I believe in the past you worked for more private, how do you work within the two differences, which are big differences between public and private?
There's a huge difference, and I guess, one of the glaring points where I blatantly made a very bad call is in the recommendation and moving through and promoting the increase of the tax increase. I came at it from a private sector perspective. I looked at it and I said, why would you want to be paying $100 a month for the rest of your life if you can just pay, $500 a year for 3 years? This doesn't make any sense. And I looked at it as a purely economical decision and made my recommendations and obviously was convincing enough to the commission that this was the right thing to do. I completely neglected to take in the public opinion, the public side of things, and that was my bad. That's all me. So since then, obviously it's a mistake I'll never make again, I can promise you that. But what we're trying to do now is to do an outreach into the community and make things as transparent as possible. The irony is, you take, for example, the Sage Haven deal, which we're working on now, we roll it out in the public, and everybody expects us to have all the answers on day one, and then we're criticized because we don't have the answers. Well, you can't roll it out and explore the answers in the light of day and have them all at the same time. So at times it can be very frustrating. It's probably one of the more difficult transitions I've made. And I've lived in many different countries around this planet and worked in many different venues. And I think the hardest transition I've made is to sort of into this public eye and just realizing how important it is to convey, be transparent, and have that relationship with the public. Because it's not always a harmonious one, obviously. So I guess to answer your question, it's been a difficult transition, probably the hardest thing for me stepping into there. But I think I'm starting to finally get my head wrapped around it, and hopefully, it shows in the actions that the board has taken and the transparency that we're trying to get out there.
Okay, excellent. I've noticed in the Sunday papers, the things you're advertising more, showing what the port's doing, and I really appreciate that, and I think the citizens too.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And I just want to say, I know I've worked with you on the EDC and with the Labor Council, and I think you guys are doing a good job of getting out there and getting that input. I think you're doing a great job, and it's showing. It's beginning to show with the Port of Kalama and the Port of Longview what they're capable of creating for jobs and things. And I want to thank you for being on today.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the opportunity. And just one quick thing, I think that to let the viewers know, between the Port of Kalama and the Port of Longview right now, there's potentially $2.1 billion worth of investments that could be happening in Cowlitz County. And I mean, that's a staggering number. when you consider maybe 5 years ago, you know, a $50 million project was big. So if we do our jobs right at the ports, both Kalama and, you know, the Port of Longview, and we have the support of labor, and we get in there and we tackle these things, I think successfully, we're going to make a huge difference. We're going to move the needle significantly together if we work as a community to get these things done. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and have these discussions, and you know, I appreciate the fact that there weren't any, you know, pin me to the wall grilling questions.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Is it going to be a record revenue year this year?
No, I don't. You know, we
6 years?
still have a potential for a revenue year, but we're a little bit underneath where we were. But you know, the wind energy pretty much went up and dried up. That was supposed to come back in the second and third quarter of this year. We haven't seen it yet. Obviously, we're in May right now. There's still a potential for it, but a lot of the projects that we had on the books have actually fallen back into 2015. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I think the logs are stable and they're growing, and then as we diversify and bring more projects in, the port's in fine financial shape, but we can't break records every year or else people get used to it.
Thanks for being here.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we have another guest with us, Dennise Farquhar from the Lower Columbia Longshore Federal Credit Union.
That's correct.
Did I get all that?
You got it right.
And Dennise is here to tell us about the benefits of belonging to the Longshore Credit Union.
That is correct. Longshoremens Credit Union, Lower Columbia Longshoremens Federal Credit Union. I'm happy, first of all, to be here, so thank you for inviting me today. And I'm happy to share our story about our credit union and membership of our credit union. So we started 60 years ago. 10 longshoremen got together at a union meeting and said, hey, let's form a credit union. And I'm happy that we're still here today. So many small credit unions have gone by the wayside. However, we are still going strong, and we have a great membership base and a great group of employees that work for us as well. So happy to get our message out and share it with you guys today. We are a full-service financial institution. We offer checking accounts, money markets, CDs, mortgage loans, Visa credit cards, gift cards. You name it, we pretty much have that financial service available to our members. And one of the things that I've noticed over the last few years is that a lot of folks in our community don't realize that they're eligible for membership with us. We are a union credit union, serving union members within the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum community. And primarily those unions are affiliated with the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Labor Council. So if you happen to be a union member in this community and your union group is affiliated with the Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Labor Council, then you are eligible for our credit union. And we would love to have not only you, but your entire family would be eligible as well. So that's a message that we are really trying to share with the community and get out there so that we can share our membership and community, credit union with folks in our community.
So, you know, if anybody has any questions about, you know, whether their union is affiliated with the Labor Council, I guess they could come in and talk to you?
Yes, we have a list, a membership list, and we can look for your union group and see if you're on that list. If you're not, then there's a couple of things that we can do to help that person. We can get them in touch with the Labor Council so that that union can become affiliated with you. Once they're affiliated with the Labor Council, then that entire group is eligible. All of those union folks, and then again, their family members as well.
So that would include the building trades, the
Yes.
nurses that mostly work at Peace Health,
Yes.
IBW, UFCW, letter carriers, firefighters, SEIU,
Yes.
teachers, longshoremen, list goes on.
It
and
does.
I have a list of that as well, so if anybody needs to ask, I could help you with that.
Great.
So what other, you talked a little bit about the services. You guys offer anything special at our credit union that other places don't have?
Well, I would say that we have a mission statement. We have actually two mission statements. We have a mission statement that says, knowing and working with you. And that's pretty direct. And what that means is our goal is to create a financial relationship and partnership with that member. So I don't know that you would say that that's a special product but we have a committed approach to how we want to see ourselves servicing our member and how we want to take care of them. And we really want to be that financial partner so that we can help folks through each step of their life, whether they're a young couple starting out or if it's someone getting closer to retirement. We want to be there every step of the way to help them. And that's our short and sweet mission statement. Then we have another mission statement that's a little bit longer that says that our credit union is committed to providing personal, professional, convenient, and competitive financial services to our membership. So again, basically just taking that small statement and elaborating on what does that mean. So we want to be personal, professional. We want to be a place of convenience, but we also want to be competitive in the marketplace too. So I wouldn't say that it's anything special, but it's more a passion on how we want to take care of our member and how we want them to feel when they come in our financial institution, so that they know that we are really there for them. We work for that person coming in the door, and that's really what our focus is.
Yeah, that's great, you know, and I know the credit union from the Longshore, they're not only interested in their members, which they are,
It's very true.
but their employees do extra work too for the community. Could you highlight some of the things that they've done?
Absolutely. We have a staff member that's been with us for many years, and for the last 25 years, she's been a part of the Salvation Army Angel Tree program. And you know, she's a committee member and a volunteer, and she really rallies our whole office into supporting that cause and contributing to its success. And then we also work with Dornbecker's Children's Hospital, and every year we do a quilt raffle and a donation to them as well. We also contribute to many other community events through high school graduations in our community. We do Relay for Life, and we've donated to CAP, of course, hospice. So we are out there making a presence and also supporting all of those various nonprofits that need help. So.
I know that the credit union is always willing to work with Local 21's Community Action Program.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever it is, a food drive or coats, or, and you guys have your own
Yes, we
individual,
do.
your
Yeah.
own separate things as well.
Well, we
but-
like to be in a competition a little
Yeah.
bit from time to time. So.
But you help us out, you know, whenever we ask, and it's a good partnership. So you just had your 60 years anniversary.
Yeah.
What have you seen? What has grown in the 60 years? You know, what has changed that you could tell us? And what's your vision? Is there things you'd like to improve on?
Well, you know, there's always room for improvement, and if you're not trying to improve every day, then you're stagnant, and that's not a good thing. I would say going through the process of the 60th anniversary, we did a great deal of research, and we were still fortunate to have 2 of the original 10 charter members. And in talking with them and interviewing them, first of all, it was very inspiring. And one thing that I've noticed through that time, through our board of directors and that body that really governs our credit union, is they've never lost that sincere, genuine motivation to do what's right for our credit union member. They've always stayed very grounded to what is the best thing for our member. How can we provide the best financial service for that person walking in the door and continue to be competitive in the marketplace? So we haven't lost that, which I think is amazing and great when you consider all the things that have transpired over the 60 years. You know, you think of all the technology that we have now, but yet we still are very grounded and mindful of that one person walking in the door, and that's our focus each and every day.
It's very personable. You know,
Yes.
you walk in the door and you rarely have to wait to get up to the front.
yeah.
It's great. You know, we love it.
Thank you.
We love
Thank
the
you.
credit
We
union.
take great pride in taking care of our folks when they come in the door.
Rick, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I was wondering, currently you're set up with one credit union.
Correct.
Are you looking in the future maybe to expand? Do you see a need for that yet?
You know, that is a great question. And I would say at this point in time today, we're not ready to expand as far as another location. With technology the way it is, we are serving a great deal of our members through online banking, bill payer, mobile banking. So the need for another branch isn't there yet. However, we have actually outgrown our credit union building, which we moved into 19 years ago. We are actually out of space. So as far as expansion goes, we do have an issue that we need to address there as far as doing a little office remodel and creating a few more offices. So a good problem to have these days. So.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
You mentioned technology,
Yes.
and I know I've badgered you over the last
Yes.
couple of years about
Yeah.
Facebook, because I've
Yes.
been on there and I'm on Facebook too
I
much,
know.
and I know the benefits that it can and create for a credit union. Is there any plans to get one of those going?
A very good question as well, and that is on the horizon. I don't want to promise a date to you yet, but definitely something that we're working on with our marketing campaign, as far as educating the community about membership with our credit union, and then also building in a Facebook or another social media avenue so that we can reach the community better.
Right on. Did you have any other closing comments?
Well, I just want to thank you for inviting me to be here today and to share our credit union message, and also in support of Cowlitz-Wahkiakum Labor Council and all the great things and the great work that you do in the community too. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I just wanted to take a minute to talk about what we have going on, upcoming events. We have a candidate interview day, May 31st, and that's going to be for all the candidates that are filing this week, actually, for local positions and beyond. May 31st at 10 a.m. It's at the Woodworkers Hall. We're going to be sending out questionnaires to all the candidates running for office. And then the big news is we're going to be having a rally, a labor rally, community rally, June 21st at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. or so. And we're going to have a lot of great speakers. We're going to have Jeff Johnson, the president of the State Labor Council, come down. We're also going to get a lot of the unions around town, representatives to come speak. What's going on is this year we have an abnormally high number of unions have contracts up this year.
Oh, yes, very true.
About a dozen or more have the contracts negotiations. And I know ILWU has 3 or 4 alone. The chemical workers, firefighters, some of the building trades, Longview teachers, nurses at Peace Health, any others you can think of, Rick?
Yeah, we have the
Capstone.
AWPPW with Weyerhaeuser and Capstone.
Capstone, yeah.
They're in the middle of negotiations at this time as well.
And I think it's the pulp and paper division at Weyerhaeuser. The list goes on. So we're having a rally to show everybody that we're in this together and that we're going to support each other, and the community is welcome to come. Dennise, you're invited.
Thank
You
you.
can come talk about the credit union.
Yes,
if you want.
I would love that.
So, well, thanks again for being
Thank you.
on. And also, if you want to visit us or contact us, you can contact us by email at cow.wa.clc@outlook.com. You can check us out on Facebook or YouTube, of course. We post these videos on YouTube. And everyone that's a union member or a union retiree is welcome to come to our meetings anytime and have a voice and participate. Thanks for watching.